Bermuda is a small island, only a couple hours plane ride off the coast of the US. It's semi-tropical and full of life, including all kinds of shelled animals, including gastropods, which are chambered animals that live on either the land or in the water. Bermuda's land snails, a type of gastropod, are thought to have lived on the island for hundreds of thousands of years, and they were once so plentiful you could step on them everywhere you walked. They were even plentiful in the 1950s when scientists first began studying them, and there were possibly over 15 species that evolved during all that time. It's amazing to think that all of these animals probably came from just one small snail who made it across the ocean on a pile of sticks.
You might wonder what Bermuda has to do with the history of evolution research, and maybe you've heard of Charles Darwin and his Darwin's finches from the Galapagos Islands. Well, here on Bermuda, there's a group of land snails that were really critical to Stephen Jay Gould's theory of punctuated equilibrium.
Punctuated equilibrium was actually developed jointly with a scientist named Niles Eldredge, though Dr. Eldredge's work focused on trilobites, and Stephen Gould was known for his work on the Bermuda land snails. It's considered one of the most important evolutionary theories since Charles Darwin, and possibly a woman named Mary Anning, came up with the theory over 150 years ago. Punctuated equilibrium differs from Darwin's theory in that species are thought to quickly evolve and adaptively radiate in many distinct niches in order to survive harsh conditions, just like the Bermuda land snails were thought to have done.
I'm standing here at the entrance to one of Bermuda's many cave systems. Its dark and damp environment full of plant cover is an ideal place to find land snails, just like the ones I'm holding here in my hand.
These are modern snails, known as Poecilozonites, and are the last remaining species of the Bermuda land snails, which are now highly endangered. They were hunted to near extinction by predator snails like this one, and were outcompeted for resources by edible snails, which were intentionally introduced in the past few decades, and further damaged by the European garden snail, like this one here, which was accidentally introduced to the ecosystem.
As you can see, I'm in a cave right now, which is made out of limestone, and it's taken quite some time for acidic water to have leached through this entire system of rocks. This is all calcium carbonate behind me, and at one point it was far above ground, and at another point it was far below ground. But as you can see, there's stalactites and stalagmites all around me. And on the ground here, right behind me, is there's even some fossils.
The caves of Bermuda are full of beautiful pools of water like this one. Being a curious scientist, I wanted to know if the crystal clear water was fresh or salty, so I decided to do an experiment.
I'm gonna go swimming now in the Prospero's Cave in the Grotto Bay Hotel. You'll never guess, it's actually salt water.
And it was really deep and really cold. As you can tell by looking at the beach right outside the cave here, not a lot of people like to swim in Bermuda in November. Not too far away from the cave is a road cutting with a long exposure of fossil-bearing sediments, preserving hundreds of thousands of years of both marine and land fossils from both warm periods and ice ages. It's thought the Bermuda land snail represents 95% of these land fossils.
Right now I'm in St. George's Parish, and what you're looking at behind me is a sandstone matrix full of the same kinds of fossils that Stephen Jay Gould used to study decades ago.
If you look more closely, you can see that the fossils are everywhere, and they're extremely well preserved. It's very clear to see that there's quite a lot of shell variety, indicating that even this one layer contains a number of different but closely related species.
As I was walking around on some of the same paths that Stephen Jay Gould went on decades ago, I couldn't help but notice that there's one of the intruder species.
This live intruder species is a garden snail, and he's sitting on the very rocks containing the extinct Bermuda land snail, which his ancestors helped to bring to near extinction in just a few decades. There's active work being done by Bermuda to locate and preserve the remaining members of this one last surviving species. If you visit the Bermuda Museum of Natural History, which is located in the building along with its zoo and aquarium, you can see an entire display about the many species of snails that used to live here, and the steps that the government is taking to help protect the one last remaining species of Poecilozonites. As I always say, please don't collect specimens when you're out in the field. since it's important to preserve them for the future. It's also important to help protect endangered species any way you can. For some related information, as well as info on evolution science fair projects, which is what my old science fair project used to be about, please visit mrsciencefair.com or tumblehomelearning.com to read more about my recently released book about an evolution mystery called The Furious Case of the Fraudulent Fossil. Thanks for watching.